The Spanish cities of Nacogdoches and Laredo in comparison. The location of Nacogdoches created a distinct culture and international relationship. Nacogdoches is located in modern-day East Texas, and it served as an eastern border town for Spanish Texas. The site had been settled by Indians since the 1200s and was seen as an appropriate site for a settlement. A mission was built nearby, and soon Lacedays, a Spanish military fort, was built with the concern of the growing French province of Louisiana. Nacogdoches was established as a town rather than a fort or mission. Nacogdoches was to be built as a mission but grew as a town instead. When the Spanish built the East Texas mission, they had the intention of converting natives and preventing French encroachment. The biggest competition between the French and the Spanish in this area was the fight for the loyalty of the natives. Both countries sought economic gain from the natives, but approached the situation in different ways. The native Caddo and Wichita Indians preferred the French kinship over the Spanish missions. The Spanish treated the Caddo and Wichita as trading partners, whereas the French sought kinship with them and intermarried, as well as sent many young Frenchmen to live with the tribes. They abandoned the area and later returned in 1779. When they returned, they established a town instead of a mission and used the town to establish a border and supply the nearby fort of Lacedays. Soldiers stationed at Lacedays often traded with the townspeople of Nacogdoches. The nearby fort of Lacedays and Nacogdoches created trade with the French and native Indians. The fort of Lacedays was located close to the French border, and there was a need to supply the fort. Nacogdoches townspeople helped to supply the fort with goods and even traded with the native Indians for more supplies. Trade with the natives was essential, and the Spanish wanted to win the favor of the natives for both economic and safety reasons. The natives started to trade with the American colonists, and a major commodity that was traded was guns. This posed as a major safety threat to the Spanish people. During the later settlement of Nacogdoches in 1795, Spain and England were at war with each other. The nearby French town of Nacogdoches often sought trade with Nacogdoches, and people from the area went back and forth between towns as if there were no borders or international competition for territories. This trade and open movement spurred immigration from the French, the native Indians, and later some Americans when Louisiana was sold by Napoleon. The French and Indian influence gave Nacogdoches a distinct culture. The trading of goods always brings forth other traded things such as ideas and cultures. The Indians often wanted gifts as trade and peace arrangements. However, when the gifts that were promised were not received, the people of Nacogdoches felt great anxiety for not being able to follow through on their government's word. The open Indian and French trade created an environment where Spanish nationalism did not seem to be prominent. The melting pot identity of Nacogdoches was very unique when compared to the other Spanish Texas towns. Nacogdoches was considered by the Spanish to be the frontier. The Spanish abandoned East Texas early on and did not return until 1779. At this time, San Antonio de Bejar was considered the last town before wilderness. Troops sent to Nacogdoches knew that they were entering the frontier. They were warned about Indians and French troops. The Spanish considered abandoning all East Texas forts over and over, but the town of Nacogdoches stayed. The town continued to grow despite the lack of Spanish interest. Laws were largely ignored in the Nacogdoches area. The Spanish tried to stop trade between Spanish residents and French residents. This was hard to maintain throughout Texas, but in Nacogdoches, where trade between the Spanish and French was a necessity, trade continued and did not die down. Most residents resorted to smuggling horses to Nacogdoches for essential goods. The Spanish government sought to restrict this trade, but it just angered citizens further and created further disloyalty. The location of Laredo created a much more Hispanic culture and identity compared to Nacogdoches. Laredo always maintained a Hispanic culture because of the types of people living there. However, there was apparent Indian interactions and assimilation through marriage. An example of this is the petition written by a padre in regards to an arrested Indian and his wife in 1786. I am in possession of the petition made to you, sir, by the missionary padre of Mission San Juan Capistrano, regarding to the Indian and his wife arrested at the Presidio of Laredo, along with the horses and mules, which he mentions. Laredo was a river-crossing town and had a sister town of Nuevo Laredo, on the opposite side of the Rio Grande. The Spanish used Laredo as a gateway town into Texas. Laredo was located on the road to Behar, which made it a great location for trade and travelers. Laredo was located on the border with Mexico. Laredo's border status made it a strategic point for the Spanish trade routes. Not only was the town located on the border with Mexico, but it was also situated on the Rio Grande. When troops were moved north, Laredo served as a stopping point and refueling station for the Spanish. Laredo was much closer to Mexico City than Nacogdoches. Laredo's closer proximity to Mexico City made it a more supplied town and better maintained town than Nacogdoches. When troops were needed, they could be sent much faster to Laredo than Nacogdoches. Ships could supply Laredo with goods quicker than Nacogdoches. Location was a key factor in Laredo's success as a border town. The easily passable part of the Rio Grande, located near Laredo, made it an ideal location as it was already on the main highway. Laredo was a river crossing area that saw much more traffic than Nacogdoches would have. Nacogdoches, because of its location, was traveled lightly and instead was made up of many different cultures working together to survive as opposed to Laredo. Laredo was well traveled and saw much traffic moving from Mexico City to Behar. If someone from Nacogdoches traveled to Mexico City, they would more than likely pass through Laredo on their way. The military force was stronger in Laredo. Troops could be sent to Laredo much quicker and easier than Nacogdoches. When a revolt took place in Texas, or Indian raids became wars, troops were sent either to or through Laredo. The movement of troops to Laredo made it a better fortified town and was considerably more protected than Nacogdoches. Many comparisons can be made between these two towns because they are each Spanish towns, but they are completely different in customs and cultures. The Spanish enforced laws in Laredo more often than Nacogdoches and dealt with legal matters more often in Laredo. The military force was more present in Laredo, Indian trade was less frequent in Laredo, and many other things separated these two towns. Military force was stronger and could be assembled more easily in Laredo. Laredo's closer proximity to Mexico City meant that troops could be moved to Laredo much more quickly than Nacogdoches. This made laws stricter and fortifications stronger. If Laredo faced any military adversity, they could better defend themselves because of the stronger military presence. Trying to fight and control the Indians was much easier near Laredo, as shown in a letter to the Texas governor at the time. There has been no hostilities whatsoever experienced from our Indian enemies, that the Indian men and women who ran away from the missions of San Jose and San Juan were apprehended, and of the news reported by the 4 Comanches who appeared regarding the expedition against the Lipans. So in conclusion, Nacogdoches was located in the northeastern section of Texas. The town had a frontier location and attitude far from the reaches of the Spanish Empire. The town was forced to trade with the French and Caddo Indians in order to survive. The Caddo relied on the Spanish as much as the Spanish relied on them. Laredo was more easily controlled by the Spanish, as well as more protected. Laredo was a border-crossing town and saw much traffic from the Spanish military and officials. The closer location to Mexico City meant that Laredo was within the clutches of Spanish control, and both benefited and suffered under their rule from the safety and embargoes. Laredo was by all accounts a Spanish city with a strong Hispanic tradition. Nacogdoches was a multicultural center and was the original Spanish melting pot.